Omelette has a guest this morning who has really come to fame in a short period of time. He was in town recently to bring his show known as Soul Train. Of course, what really started the ball rolling for him was his television show. And the thing that makes it interesting is it's the first black-owned, the first black-sponsored, and the first black-produced television show, and it's syndicated nationwide, and it is seen here in Louisville, not on our station, Don, but I'm just excited to talk to you about it and find out how you got the idea. And did you realize it was going to take off and be so successful?
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't. I have to say honestly that I knew when it first occurred to me, when the idea first occurred to me back in Chicago while I was still working in radio, that it had that kind of potential. But no one could have told me that it would have happened in such a relatively short time, you know.
Now, you did have a background in radio, too. Did that, you've got a great voice and a great presentation. I know a lot of people like to mimic you, and you handle that well. But did that give you a lot of background for doing the role you do on it?
Absolutely. The radio experience is, television is a natural transition to go to from radio. And radio and television, needless to say, are very much related. And while in radio, I learned how to read, and read in broadcasting means something different than it means in general. And I think it's the basis for everything you do in broadcasting. In other words, if you read well by broadcasting standards, you will eventually become a good ad-libber as well. It all has to do with how you train yourself to deliver words. And I trained real hard. I trained very hard. I used to drive my wife and my kids crazy, reading things and taping myself, and people look at me and say, wow, this guy was born to be what he is. And, I worked very hard on it,
How do you handle the criticism some blacks make that shows of this nature should do more than just entertain, and you're not living up to the purposes and the goals of the wider adventures blacks should be pursuing?
Well, I could say that I resent those kinds of comments, but I'm just not into criticizing other black people. I think that's the most sinful thing a black person can do. And in regard to a black person who would raise one finger about something as harmless as Soul Train, with all of the evils and all of the oppression and all of the disparity that exists in this country, is more than misguided. But because I love black people so much, I'll use the term misguided, and I'll let you use your imagination to say what I think of a person who wastes time criticizing what black people are doing instead of spending his time trying to help black people in the way that he knows best. The way I know best to help black people, since I'm not a preacher nor an educator, is to try to project positive images of them, and entertainment that they want. To me, is quite a luxury, because there's been so little in this country given or made available to blacks that they want. The person who dare criticize a Soul Train probably does not criticize NBC, ABC, and CBS because they've never had a black anchorman. That's a serious problem as far as I'm concerned, not how many records we play or how well black kids can dance. That's not what we're trying to say. We're trying to say that we deserve our kind of entertainment. We deserve a choice of entertainment. And if we're getting numbers, that means we're giving people something that they want. And with all due respect to the misguided person that might make such a comment, it's unfortunate that it happens.
Getting back to the show itself, I want to ask you personally, can you do all the dances those kids do?
I can do absolutely none of them.
Over reading, I heard that really they audition for those spots on Soul Train. Is that true?
No, they don't really audition. We have a teen coordinator, and all of the kids come on the show through her. She's a social worker in Los Angeles and is working with kids on a regular basis. in addition to the work she does for Soul Train. What she does is try to gather groups of kids who will project positive images. In other words, they should be well dressed when they come on the show.
Very fashionably, I will say.
Right, and we hope that they are excellent dancers while we don't limit our group to excellent dancers. In other words, if you watch closely, you'll see mixed in between those super dancers, kids that don't even have rhythm, you know. And I am speaking as an expert when I say it's untrue that we all have rhythm.
I can second that.
Many kids that, you know, black kids that couldn't dance in time with the music. But things are happening so fast, you only notice the ones who are standouts, you know. But no, we don't audition them, but we naturally, if we see a kid, if our teen coordinator is out in the community and she sees a kid that's exceptional, she would recruit that kid. But as far as kids coming on, showing us what they could do before they get on the show, we never really know what they do before they get on the show, unless it's someone that specifically came to our attention.
Another thing I have to ask now that I didn't really know you were doing when you take Soul Train on the road, just as you've brought it here to Louisville. Now, do you bring a group of the dancers too?
Yes, we do, or we did. And there again is something that we feel contributes to the well-being of these kids and their futures. A lot of the kids that dance on the show want to be professional dancers. They don't want to be lawyers, and I think they have the right to want to be whatever they want to be. And as most people know, you don't get paid for dancing on a dance show on television. However, some of these kids, in my opinion, are professionals in terms of their ability. It's a raw kind of talent that before Soul Train got no exposure. And I think that this talent can eventually be channeled in such a way that their style of dancing will be just as popular on TV specials and in film and what have you as jazz dancing became, or modern dancing became. So they're very serious. The kids that we brought here to Louisville and to the few other cities that we've been to are very serious about dancing, and we hope to help them to develop in such a way that they can go on to be professionals. One girl and one young man who was a regular dancer on Soul Train have each gotten parts in plays. Demita Jo Freeman, who everybody seems to remember from Dancing with Joe Tex, toured with two gentlemen from Verona as a result of her exposure on Soul Train. Another young man, Lamont Peterson, is working in off-Broadway in New York now, moved from L.A. to New York because he was that serious about his dancing. So there again, there's a lot more to the production of a show like Soul Train than meets the eye, you know, and I just hate for anybody to think that all we're trying to project is how good black folks can dance, because that's not really what it's all about.
One interesting aspect of the show is where the teenagers have a chance to talk to the celebrities that come on the show, and sometimes they can really get pretty personal and pretty direct in their questionings. Have you ever had any real tense moments?
We've had quite a few, as a matter of fact, and that's why the feature was instituted, because I just felt that people are tired of hosts like myself and others asking all the same questions. Well, when did you get started? How long, you know? They ask some of the same questions, but they also ask some questions that I wouldn't ask. You know, they asked Aretha Franklin, was it hard for her to go on a diet and lose so much weight? Well, I never would have asked Aretha that, and she loved it, you know. So they come from left field. You know, they asked James Brown about his support of Richard Nixon, which I would never have asked him. You follow me? And he loved it because he wanted the opportunity to state his case, you know. But I never would have asked him that, you know. So it's a very, very unique kind of feature, and makes for a wonderful atmosphere. And the kids, of course, love the opportunity to talk to these people as they have talked to just about everybody who's been on the show, and you name it, they've done the show. And the big stars always get interviewed by the kids, and I have to talk to them on the sidelines.
Thanks so much for giving me some of your time today. Don Cornelius of Soul Train. We'll be back with more of Omelette in just a minute.